how to really enjoy your children and love being a parent. I just have to say that I love the title of this. I hope you listened to the last podcast because disqualified, because I think it's a message everyone needs to hear. But today's is going against the tide or against the tide. There's always been opposition to everything we do, whether it's the kind of parenting, everything in life. And I think it's a really good lesson for mothers, grandmothers, every woman, to man or woman, to really understand we are going to get opposition. He says that we are. It's not supposed to be a surprise. Trials, valleys, these are all going to happen to everyone. We're not going to live a life without difficulties. It's not biblical or scriptural, and it just doesn't happen. What's different is that we don't have to do it alone. That's why you, and especially your children, they need a forever best friend, and I mean forever. They're never going to leave you, forsake you, turn your back. You'll never be alone. You'll never feel lonely. I know that to be true. I'm a very sociable person, but you know what? I can be by myself all the time. I'm happy. And the reason I'm happy is because I'm not alone. People could call me crazy. Well, probably I am. I'm sure I am. But I'm happy, and I love everything that comes into my life and the difficulties. And if you can do that as the parent, I think even though it's, going against the tide, I think one of the main threads that needs to run through everything is what you need to do is do it for yourself first. You need to lead the way. You need to be the example. You need to have the testimony as part of your portfolio, the part of, we're epistles read by all men. The first person who's going to read, it actually translates, I just found that out yesterday. Epistle is really letter. It's not an entire book, but most of the New Testaments are letters, that the Apostle Paul was writing to different groups in Corinth, the Corinthians, the Galatians, Okay, so I can definitely quote that. But anyway, who is reading your life? Your children, your grandchildren, all children. They're very observant to what's going on. And so first you have to lead by example. You have to do it. Nobody wants people to, aren't we just upset and frustrated by people who say, you should do this, but I'm going to do something the other way, or pretend that they're doing it? It's just no good. So first you need to do it. And then you have something that you can share, and sharing your weaknesses. Yes, it's great if you share something wonderful that's happened, but helping your child or anyone that you're ministering to understand that it's through our difficulties and finding our way through that valley of shadow of death, how we were able to continue traveling down the center of the narrow road, the narrow path that leads to life, when there is a multitude going the absolute opposite direction. How can you do that if you're doing it by yourself? Some people could, but not very well. Not really. But with him, nothing's impossible. That's one of the promises. That's a great one. And it is in our children's book, Nothing is impossible with God. With man, it's impossible. With God, all things are possible. It's in each one of the Matthew, Mark, Luke, all the new books, the first books of the New Testament. So I just wanted to say that we are going against the tide. You are going against the tide. You are getting opposition. And now I want to share one specific one and a kind of a testimony that I wasn't sure. Well, I knew if it was what he was doing and it was giving me the desires of my heart. Remember, if you delight yourself, he'll give you the desires of your heart, which I'm always delighting myself in him because he's delightful. That is, the tide that is, it's like a flood now, that younger girls are inundated and are actually verbally saying that they don't want to be a mother. They don't want to have children. Now, back when I was growing up, I'm sure there were people that said that. Even my own son said, "Oh, I'm never going to get married." And I told him, when you meet the person that's for you, that God, chose for you, you will. And of course he did. And he is the most romantic, even though he is the least likely to be a romantic. He is. But now I have grandchildren, and specifically I have at least one granddaughter. Since I have 5, I can just pinpoint one granddaughter who is very outspoken. I don't want to ever have children. I don't want to get married. And my heart broke because I thought, oh my gosh. And I knew that even though I said, oh, but it's the most wonderful thing. No. Anyway, I knew that I needed to really speak to my husband and say, what, is there anything that I can do? And always go to your husband, your children's father, and ask, what should we do about this? I'm just going to trust you with it because I can't solve it. And if you think you can solve the problem, guess again, you can't. It even a temporary solution won't last. So I went to him for this. I waited a long time. I kept thinking of something, but I thought, no, if this is my idea, it's not going to work. It's not going to work, not going to work. Now, whether he leads you to do this or not, I just hope that you will go for any problem. At the end of this, just go to him with any problem. What is the solution? What should we do together? It's not just him doing things. God created us for fellowship. He wants to fellowship. He wants to hang out with us, and he wants to do it with somebody who's happy. So make sure that you get happy by hanging around with him, and then he has someone to hang around with and fellowship with, which is why you were created. So back to this. I went to him and asked, and then I kept seeing something. And anyway, it has continued. Sometimes I get more opposition and it tries to stop, but this is what happened. Two of my granddaughters, became best friends, and it's beautiful. They're a year apart. One I knew is a baby lover. I mean, her mom constantly is saying, oh my gosh, she goes up to every baby. She's talking, hello, how are you? And, oh, you're so pretty. And she just goes crazy about babies just like me, The other one, I don't know how she acts around babies. I don't know, but she's actually spoken and is continuing to speak. I don't want children. I don't want babies. She loves animals, which is, hey, the love of an animal is a sweet thing. The cuddling, we have Macy's barn cat, So, but it is something different to have a child, a soul, be fruitful and multiply. And if you are crazy, like there's so many grandparents now that don't even want grandchildren. I think you're being lied to. That's just isn't true. So let me get back to what we ended up doing and what we've been doing. once a week, it just happens to be on a Sunday, I ask my husband to show me which baby picture. So we play a game. You know, there's a lot that these two cousins, even though they live on opposite, one is pretty as far north as you can get, down to, one of the most southern places in the United States. But they play games, on video games, and they talk and things. So that's fine, but I've never been a game player, playing games in any way, shape, or form. And I mean that literally. But this is a game. So I said, would you both be interested? That was one time then when they were together. Would you both be interested in playing a game that I just thought up, and it's called Name the Baby or Guess the Baby? And so every week I post on a text, and we get on FaceTime, and I text 3 different pictures, baby pictures. Now, we have a big family. There's been 7 children. I haven't gotten into who they married, but anyway, the nice thing is that I don't have to figure it out. I will just tell you, we just passed Father's Day. And for Father's Day, even though we couldn't get together, we did it in text later on, and everybody had the best time. But I text fathers. I text the one father, one of my granddaughters' fathers, one of my sons, another son, and my father. And the funny part about this is that the theme of it, and I thought, oh my gosh, they might get really embarrassed, because I remember I was super sensitive. Nice to find out that they're not overly sensitive about this, maybe because I was raised in a Catholic church, or I have I don't know about, well, anyway, my father he was born in 1909. He is like on his hands and knees, like crawling position. He has a little t-shirt, but he has a bare bottom, and he's on a bearskin rug. And he had a lot of hair. I just can't imagine having that much hair on a child. My babies were all bald, but anyway, and so then I remembered, and I thought, oh my gosh, do I have baby pictures of both of their dads? And because of my father's picture, because I had this baby picture of his, that I was too embarrassed about these kinds of things when I was little, but they're not, thankfully. I have one of them, and they have their little bare bottoms, but that was Guess the Baby. And it's fun, but it is making them so excited, especially the one who said all she liked was this dog and that dog and this stuffed animal. It was always animals, not people, not children. But now they get so excited. And even just this morning, I found a baby picture of one of them popped up in my feed. You know how that happens when, remember this day? Anyway, it popped up. I took a screenshot. My husband said, just drag it in there. I know it's not Sunday, but it's summer vacation. I didn't even remember that. Of course, my husband did. And so I drag it in there and pop it in, and I said, Guess the Baby. And one of them comes back, me, because it was her. And I said, yes. And then her cousin said, oh, you were so adorable. And now it's igniting that love for children and babies. And he's done that. Now, the fact that I'm recording this, I don't know how it happens, but this could all just end and we could have more opposition. But that's the name of this podcast, right? Going against the tide. The nice thing is that even if the river is flowing one way, going the wrong way, if I'm having to go upstream, if I'm paddling against the current, and I actually am picturing something that happened when I always love being a parent. I had a small baby, and I had to paddle, literally, a canoe till my arms were burning to get this child to warmth, because our canoe had capsized in the cold water river. and it absolutely was cold. I was going to paddle, but I had that strength that a mother has to save her child, to comfort her child. He has that love for you, by the way. If you haven't felt that, ask him and say, I want to feel that love that you have for me. And tell your children to do the same thing. But anyway, we're always going to be having opposition. We're always going to be going against the tide. And if we're not going against the tide, if we're not in that getting bumped as we're trying to follow this narrow road, it's like walking the line in the center and everybody's going the wrong way, then if you're going in the same direction, more than likely you're going the wrong way. And so the best way to beat the crowds, go against the tide, is to just take your father's hand, your best friend, your husband, the lover of your soul. You will have opposition, and that's a good thing, especially if you're holding on. And if you ever feel overwhelmed, I'm just going to tell you, sometimes when I just feel like I'm just being hit so bad, I literally kind of get behind him. Like if you were, I don't know, in a snowstorm or something, and you buried your head in the back of this strong physical feet, person, and we're going, that's what I do sometimes. So if you're there, do that too. But I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And if you do, record something, share it, leave something below, share your own experience. I just hope you will. And I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am.